progression ain't required. I go hard in the pain even when I'm tired. Cause tomorrow ain't promised. I give my all, ain't nothing less. No tomorrow ain't promised. There's no tomorrow, no tomorrow, no.
Now you can hear me. Look, that's how long it's been. We got some technical difficulties going on around here. You can hear me now, though. All I wanted to say, man, I wanted to run an impromptu for those of y'all tuned in to Money in the Bank. I'll be watching it on delay for those of y'all who was partying, whatever. A lot of love in the comments, man. So appreciate all the love in the comments. You guys is missing hard in the paint, but this is not gonna be a traditional one. We're rocking the impromptu, so I can get a couple things out for y'all. Maybe there'll be story time. Maybe there'll be a meet me at the rim. But today, I wanted to talk progression because I'm feeling a little good, right? So I'm gonna very quickly kind of lay out how progression works so everybody can understand how it works here in SimWorld and why things are not under the hood. I want to take away some of the guesswork, but hey, if people ain't tuned in or they not tapped in, hey, then it is what it is. But we're gonna give away a little free game because Yells likes to give away a little free game around here. So, and I'll see y'all in the chat, see what y'all want to know. But let me explain one thing: yearly progression, right? Everything we do here, we try and make as realistic as possible. Now, some things may not be finished yet. And y'all can't even, I don't even think everybody appreciates just how crazy robust this stuff is. But we got even more coming, you feel me? Even more. Some of it like this. Some of it will be a little something like that. Nevertheless, yearly progression. Yearly progression is if you were to take 1 point in the year, mark it down, where your skill level is, right? This is how people assess stuff. Take that same date the following year and say how much have you progressed, right? Nobody walks around with numbers and attributes under them, so that's not going to happen here, right? But people measure it. They take an eye test. They see how good they feel over a sample, over a time sample period of time, and what their game felt like, and measure the progression. So there's something on the back end we have that does all that. Everything we do here is automated. We may have some small idle things to get over it, but nobody's sitting here doing all that, right? Yearly progression happens once a year at the time that y'all just saw, what we have now famously dubbed the level up, right? When people go age up a year, they make it to their next levels, they progress, get bigger, get smaller, get faster, whatever. The level up happens. So that once a year is when progression kicks in at a yearly rate, right? So let me explain what it is. How much better you've gotten from one year to another. And it's relatively marginal how much someone gets better if they were to do absolutely nothing but play games during the season. Pickup games, tournament games. That's what this replicates. No training. It just replicates how much better you may or may not have gotten. And it's random. It is scaled. Let y'all know there's a top amount as much as someone can progress. There's a floor where someone cannot progress at all. That is randomized throughout our system for everyone in our world. But here's the key. It also factors in engagement. There's something in that algorithm and formula who's looking at where someone performed, where their engagement was at the top of the top of the scale and where it was at the bottom. And it's going to scale in a greater chance for maximum or near maximum progression. I can't speak to the whole formula because I'm not going to get it all. But the more engaged you are, the higher the ratio is that you probably get progression as far as in the maximum progression in that higher tier. I see DeVar Schuyler. I guess he in here with the jokes. No facial hair and hair progression. No, it's pretty robust as it is right now. We haven't gotten to that. We're trying to work on the more important details at the moment. But I can tell you, if it's real, then we'll get there. Yeah, people will age in the future and all that. But yearly progression, staying on topic for a minute. Within that range that we have of what can naturally happen without training, the engagement level scales and gives you the opportunity to potentially have the higher progression in. The lower it is, the lower progression you will likely see. But there's still a random element to it all. So that's progression. That's how progression rocks on a yearly basis. But our progression here is layered, right? Engagement factors in to basketball IQ. It's totally different than just overall progression, right? Your overall progression most likely will occur within the archetype or the player build that you have. Like if you're a post scorer, your progression will work towards post scorer because that's what you naturally are, right? Your natural offensive build or your natural defensive build. That's why we have everything in this world spoken a certain way, framed a certain way, worded a certain way, right? There's no 2K archetype. There's no I play a position. No, you play how you play. The coach decides what your position is. So back to that again. If you're on the leaderboard for progression, I guess that's what someone's asking. It's a year-to-year progression, right? That and I guess we can attack that too because everybody seems to look at this stuff all different. The weekly yearboard, the weekly leaderboard on engagement is just engagement. It's to show us from one week to another who was the most engaged in that week. But the all-time progression, that's a leaderboard for you guys to see who you want to tackle. But a year-to-year progression, year-to-year engagement is seen behind the scenes. Y'all don't see that. We do. And that's how progression is built out, is based on the year-to-year range that we've allowed first. Then it has to fall within a randomized ratio within there, random. And then on top of that, the engagement kicks back in and gives a higher engagement, boosts that you can get closer to the higher end based on engagement. So not everyone's guaranteed to progress. There is a random element there, but it is heavily weighted that you get a better yearly progression the more engaged you are. Leaderboard, totally different thing. All-time leaderboard, totally different thing. That's yearly progression. Happens no matter what. If you do mini games, if you spend money, if you're engaged or not, it's just skewed to the higher engagement. That's that. Now, the engagement-based progression, like I said, it's already kicked into the yearly progression that happens, but the engagement-based progression, it's a little smaller increments, but it sticks with your player. But it's a little smaller increments than the yearly progression. But what happens with that is, again, it's scaled towards the higher side, but everyone automatically gets a little something here. And these are primarily in the path of what your natural nature is as a player. These kick in monthly. So you get a yearly progression. There's monthly progressions that are happening, which kind of say, hey, from this time period to this time period, which is a little smaller than a year, it's a month, this is how it works for you. That's already layered in. So that's a different level. So somebody may be super engaged in April, and it helps their overall yearly engagement, but they may have just tapped out for the rest of the year. You know how y'all do go and ghost, and y'all's phones don't work. Some of y'all live on Mars and the internet don't work, so y'all tap out for weeks and then come back, right? Somebody may have that scenario where they're inactive for a couple of months. So they're no longer on the leaderboard, but how active they may have been in the beginning may see their yearly progression boosted. That monthly progression may look a little different for them. So you got yearly progression and monthly progression. Both of those are the same type of scenario where they enhance your game, and they're just solely based on randomization and engagement. What's coming which is what everybody's waiting on, which everyone's tired of hearing about, but it not being here yet. But shit, it's a lot of work. Like y'all, like I don't know. I wish some of y'all would attack some of y'all's favorite brands this way. Like, when's it coming? We doing what we can do. This shit's hard. While we're running a non-stop world and managing all of it in one of the most robust environments you're gonna find. So it's hard to work on growth projects while we have so much in operations. Just explain, there's so much going on a day to day. It takes us a little bit more time to build some of the stuff we're building for the future. And some of it, you know, there's got to be some appreciation for how in depth it is. So, looking at your note, let me before I go there for that. DeVar Scholar says, so we can basically develop during the season monthly. Yes, you do already. It's based on your engagement already. So all of these things are things that you need for an eye test, though, because again, this is supposed to be a video game. You're not going to see rankings behind you. You're not going to see ratings that you can look at. What you can do is watch your game, and in one game, you may suck. In another game, you may have a great game. Is that to say, hey, in one game or two games, I can gauge my progression? No, that's not realistic, right? Over a few games, you may see a little more of what it is you're trying to see. I looked a little better finishing on the interior. I hit my jumpers a little bit more, defense, whatever it is, right? You'll see it over a larger sample size. But there's so many things that factor into that, which is what y'all have to pay attention to. That's what I preach about all the time. Your coach got to be running the scheme that is best for you, playing with the right players, spacing, and then whoever's defending you. You could be on God mode on offense. Right now, we're watching in the NBA Finals, right? And yeah, I said NBA because we're on Hard to Paint. We do this a little different. You watch it now in the finals and then throughout the playoffs. Somebody load up on you or run the right offense. You look like trash in that game. Doesn't mean progression's not working. No, it means you got clamped up. You got clamped the F up. So it happens, right? So large sample size. Now y'all got to think about this, right? Talk about that all the time. This is a long-term project. So lock in, see those things, tune in. That's why we tell you to tune in. I know a lot of y'all be like, I haven't been in a pickup game. Well, maybe you have. You've been in 100 of them. Maybe they just haven't went viral. Get into the role play. Get into the role play. Like, that's what this is, right? With some of you guys, I haven't been in a pickup game in 3 weeks. There's 200 people to get to across, I think, 72 regions we have, right? High school players aren't hopping on planes, flying to other cities to see themselves. Some SimWorld U players, it may be possible. Maybe they're in a different area. During the season, you probably see yourselves in maybe more open runs as the players on your team because it's during the season. You're not at home if you're a high school player. I know I'm jumping around topics, but a lot of stuff I can throw out here and get out there. But back to the point, some people may say, hey, I haven't seen myself in a pickup game for X amount of time, right? And then they check out. They check back in, and then they see themselves sucking in a game because they took one game and a long-ass break to make their sample size if they're good, if they progressed or whatnot. Basketball is different from game to game, guys, so keep that in mind. Yearly progression. We talked about that. Engagement-based progression. The mini games, that's what I was coming to, the one that everyone's waiting on, that makes things a little... It's going to be a whole nother level. That's all I can tell you. Yearly based progression, I'm going to go back to that and speak to it in this way. I'm not going to spell out exactly what things happen, but I will give y'all a little bit of a breakdown because that's what we're doing today. So some people are going to progress in the area of intangibles. That's confidence, that's effort, that's basketball IQ. How well they know what's going on, how much and they're willing to attack and knowing when to attack, and how aggressive they are, things like that. How hard they play. That's intangibles. Y'all are funny. Scoring. Some people may progress at any given time on a yearly progression in scoring. That could be long-range shooting, mid-range shooting, finishing, power post game, or finesse post game. That's scoring. So there's a myriad of ways people fit into that. I'm not going to go under the hood of how more robust it is, but trust me, it is. That's yearly. Yearly, some people may see progression in fundamentals. That's their ball handling, right? Their ball security, their playmaking. That could be vision. That could be just being a flashier passer. It could be anything. It's playmaking. And then their rebounding. Those are the fundamental parts of the game. So some people may see some progression there. It's randomized. That's yearly. And then lastly is the physical progression. Strength and stamina, speed and quickness, and verticality. Some people are progressing in different areas of those. Physically, just over time, naturally. All of those that I named are the same exact things that could progress in any area on the engagement-based progression that applies some to yearly, and it also applies to monthly progression. Mini games. I had to stop and explain all that so I can go through this. Mini games, when they roll out, those EMs that you guys have been earning or not earning, some of y'all have been in streams catching the bonus. When that comes, mini games are essentially you having a little money in your pocket, EMs, to say, hey, can y'all open up the gym for me so I can do some training? So you're going to pay for it. And then once you get in the gym, you're going to get better. You're going to get some progression for that every time that you can do it. There will be limits on how often you can do it, or maximums, right? And if you overdo that, then there'll be a possibility of you being injured if you overwork out. If you never work out, you don't work out. All you're relying on is yearly progression and engagement-based progression. So the more mini games you can do, that's putting in the extra work. That's the progression you really want to have. And some of y'all ain't going to have your EMs up to get in the gym because y'all ain't been tuning in. And that's how you guys have been naturally earning EMs outside of giveaways. If y'all haven't noticed, weekly, you get some kind of stipend. Stipend is based off of your engagement level. But the greatest value, as I've said over and over and over and over again, comes from tuning into the goddamn stream. So, hope all that makes sense. Now I can get into mini game progression. I don't think we're gonna have time for a story time today, but I do think this is probably just as good for you guys. DeVar, mini camps are gonna be lit. Absolutely right. Cyrus Jackson. Does this mean I'll be able to directly upgrade badges since we're not behind the fourth wall? Again, as I said, I guess you weren't on there. No, we're not totally behind the fourth wall. No, nobody. This is not like anything else. If y'all noticed before, you don't know what the ratings are. You don't know what the badges are. But there's no 2K system we're following here. For those of you who actually know what SimWorld is, where we've been doing rosters and we broke the game, broke the game, and 2K developers understand that we know the mechanics of their game for it to play the way it plays by the CPU better than they do. That's the reason we don't have to show all that, because we have our own system. You guys are going to be thinking about, do I have this badge? Badges work a certain way in-game, and they go in tandem with a bunch of other stuff. I can't even begin to explain that to you, Cyrus, or anybody else that has that question. No, you're not upgrading certain badges. You are upgrading the way you want to play, and we execute that on our end. You want to be a better shot blocker? We know how to make somebody a better shot blocker. Don't you worry about your way of knowing how to edit a game. So that's the answer to that one. Can I fix my defensive related badges? Okay, there's no badges. I see y'all already started answering this for them. I love for coaches to do mini games. I'm going to stop going through y'all's questions here for a minute, because a lot of this stuff, we have plans, guys. But again, we can't implement 2,000 of the most complex ideas in the world each week, right? It's a lot of shit to do. So a lot of this stuff is already on the table. We love that y'all keep giving us ideas. But a lot of these things have already been here. We just have to be able to implement them time at a time. By the time this is done, y'all won't know the difference between this and real life, except for you don't get tired and you don't get laid. Mini game progression. That's back where we were, right? So mini games, like I said, you'll be able to purchase them. And there'll be limits, and there'll be, whatever else you do from these. These will have a daily, once it's rolled out, a daily progression. Where yearly and engagement stick with you, like you don't lose those until there's a regression. Mini game progression, they're applied daily once these roll out. That's why I think y'all really got to understand how in depth this is and how technical and how hard some of this stuff is. This stuff would be applied daily. And then it will roll back. So let's say you work in the gym, a couple days, I'm not gonna get into all of that as far as how we shrink it down. But let's say you got in the gym 3 times and you got in there heavy before a particular game. So maybe you would have maxed out what your progression could be during that time frame. You're gonna look great. You fall off the map, don't do your mini games, you go back to your starting point of what your natural progression is. Hope that makes sense. Kai Killings, you would have to be on to hear that question. There's daily, yearly progression for offense and defense. I broke down exactly what they work, how they work. There's not offense and defense. That's not a way that anyone trains, so you're going to have to go back and look at the video. So mini games, I'll go back through this one. Maybe it'll help recap some of that for you too, Kai. So mini game progression, they'll be broken down into categories as well. You'll be able to work on the intangibles with all the things that fall into that I mentioned earlier. You'll be able to work on scoring, which falls into all of that I mentioned earlier. You'll be able to work on fundamentals, which are things that I mentioned earlier. You'll be able to work on physicality, which I mentioned earlier, but there'll be there's an added section there where you can work on your toughness. Then there's also some additional ones for the mini game progression. You can work on your mentality. Your mentality is how aggressive you are or how more disciplined and structured you are in an offense. So that's more of you being able to work on your game in a very particular way. Those mini games, and it'll move forward and be applied daily. Another section that will be applied in the mini game progression is a pro training, right? Some of y'all been asking for it. It's already here. We just got to be able to roll it out. So some of that will be robust, where you get to work with some of the experts in our world, or some particular players, or some of the fictional people, right? Because we're kind of behind the fourth wall right now. Some of the characters that we've created in our world, where you get to train with them. So you'll get to see how robust that is once it rolls out. But pro training, and the pro training will be 3 particular things that they're more advanced, right? The scoring, fundamentals, physical, mental, those are all things that people are going to work on naturally throughout their basketball career if they give a shit, right? Otherwise, they're not going to do mini games. They're not going to be around. They're not earning EMs, and they just get better in increments from year to year. But if they really push it forward with the mini games and engagement, they can really get there. And the pro training, which will cost, is in advanced areas. So that's footwork, right? Again, for those of you who like to box stuff in, it's a video game, offense, defense, post game. Footwork has defensive elements, it has post elements, it has shot creations from the perimeter elements. Footwork, it's just footwork. Doesn't necessarily mean in the post, doesn't necessarily mean where you get your shot off with. You can see how it helps you during the game when you watch. No, you can't train with friends. We don't have that yet. That'll be something that we expand to. But footwork is what you can work on. You can work with a shooting coach, which helps you better identify where to get your shots from, and work on release speed and range. Or you can work with basketball IQ and focus, which is a myriad of IQ things. Where to be, right? It's not defensive IQ, offensive IQ. It's a bunch of different things. Sorry, fam, just made it back. So, it's IQ. Where to be on the pick and roll. Where to get shots from. It could be passing IQ. You have to watch the game to see how it actually plays out, because there's things that you're going to gain from that are IQ related. We don't always guarantee where they are. And then from there, the last thing you have in your mini games is signature moves. So when you guys applied and you wanted to, no, there's no group training. We haven't even rolled out the training yet, so we got to get to that. The signature moves, though, that you were able to access when you applied, you'll be able to go back and train and slowly work on those up to a point where you can put it into your arsenal. It's going to take some time with those before it can be a signature move, right? A signature move isn't learned like in a month. Sometimes not in a year, right? It depends on how much you work on it. So each time you go do your mini games, you're going to be deciding what you want to work on. At the expense of your future, you could be doing what you want to work on over a course of time. You could be saying, hey, coach may say, This is what I need you to work on to get minutes on my team, to get more minutes, or to show the confidence, or to show the other team what we want you to work on. So different agendas. You figure out how you're going to rock that, because all of it's going to impact your career like it does in real life. Train on what you want to train on, or follow advice. It's just kind of working on what you want to work on and giving the priority to what you want to. There could be signature moves. It may be physical. You got to watch to know them. I see a note here from B-Ron. That's what got me off a little bit. I think it's important to say that we don't control any of the progression in terms of what gets better. That's all randomized. For the most part, yes. But you guys control the areas. But B-Ron, absolutely nailing it. We're not inputting data. Thank you. Thank you, B-Ron. Put it in terms everybody can get. 'Cause I start speaking in SimWorldian, right? Mini game progression. No. That was that, and you can go through it at any point in time. Last couple of things here that you guys may not have known, and then we're going to be out of here. I got to get to it. Coach-based progression. It is not in the works yet. It is not applied yet, but it will be. It has been set up. It has been planned. The implementation of it is not easy, and we got to get some of the base progressions to you guys first. Then we can add this. But right now, y'all are kind of helping define what these coaches are. So over time, stats, gameplay, eye test kind of defines what a coach is and what they're good at, not what someone says they're good at. No different here. So we've been drawing data. There's a sample size here, and some coaches behind the scenes, there's no rating that you're going to look at, right? But behind the scenes, some coaches have earned a reputation in particular areas. Okay, and subsequently, their team is going to get better in particular areas based on that coach. So, some coaches are going to be better with the intangibles, and playing under them will help your intangibles on top of the yearly progression, on top of the engagement-based progression, on top of the mini-game progression. This is layered. Nobody's going to be the same here. Hope y'all get how deep it is and y'all can appreciate it. Some people are going to have coaches who are going to help with intangibles. Some coaches are going to be very well versed in scoring. Some coaches, and this is a new category that you cannot train on, you cannot get yearly progression based on this, because it's not a category where you can say, I'm working on this. You can work on things that help this, but you can't directly work on this. But a coach can particularly train you on this, so they're the only ones that can apply it. And that is defense. Defense is broken into perimeter defense, not steals, not shot blocks, a type of defense, a normal real life thing that exists. You work on perimeter defense. That coach may be a specialist in that. Coach may be a specialist in post defense. Maybe IQ may be what he's helping you improve. Defensive IQ, knowing where to be. Not that you always do it or that you're fast enough to do it, right? But knowing where to be, which can help. And then lastly is defensive effort. We all know those guys, those coaches. You're not playing unless you're everywhere you need to be when you need to be there. There's hustles on 100, right? So those are the categories that they can help you improve in. They don't get to pick them. They're not suggested. It's what's happened over the course of their time. And it works in the back end as a byproduct of that coach's area. As soon as we can get to it, Coach Heesh. As soon as we can get to it. All right, so fundamentals, which is a part of all the other ones. They can be a fundamental coach that helps with that. They can help with your physicality, with all the things we mentioned. They can help with your on-court mentality, which we've talked about. And then lastly, they can stay with you one-on-one and be a pro trainer or set you up with them at cost. And then lastly, last progression, and then we out of here. This one was in effect all last season. I talked about it, and I'm not sure everybody understands how it works or what works, so I wanted to add this in there. We talked about all the different progressions, intangible scoring, fundamentals, physical, mini games where you can do pro training, mentality, your aggression, defense, right? There's a whole other part of basketball we keep talking about. Generally speaking, let me talk through this. As a high school player, most high school kids, are good at a lot of moves but bad at basketball and terrible with knowing what to do defensively. That's no different here in our world. That's the same thing you're going to see. Awful defense in high school. The defensive players will stand out, and it's probably the primary thing they do, and they learn to become better offensive players. Most players are offense first, and they get absolutely torched in pick and rolls, lost, not knowing where to be. If they need to play one-on-one defense, they may be better, but their defensive IQ is just stupid. And that's the same here. So, you'll notice those in high school. In college, if y'all notice, college play is very different. The defense is there. The more structured, themed defense you play within a system, same thing with the offense, the better. Occasionally, the better one-on-one players did really well in SimWorld U. But for the most part, SimWorld U players on both ends, offensively and defensively, were smarter than high school players because they're a level up. They may not have all the talents, but they're tougher and they're smarter. They're stronger. SWBA is going to be the same thing. It's going to look a lot like the high school ball again, just with way more IQ. Offense will be 1,000. Defensive effort won't always be there, but those defensive players will stand out, just like what you see in the pros now. But the IQ is beyond anything in high school and absolutely beyond anything in college. And that's why sometimes you'll see a bad defensive player make a great defensive play. That's why sometimes you'll see an offensive player that is not thought to be a great offensive player bust out an incredibly good offensive move because they're still capable of it. They know it. They're just playing a role. So SWBA will still be the same. I laid those things out so I can make this last point and get out of here. Locker room engagement. Particularly the engaging that you do within your personal locker room gives you an IQ boost to your team, everyone on your team, for a week at a time. That always happens once a week at a time. So if everybody's engaged, the top tier, most engaged locker rooms get scaled out boosts to their IQ for that week. Then they start over flat again. And this has been happening week after week. So those teams that have been incredibly engaged, you saw them making the right passes or being connected defensively or both. You saw them operating with great chemistry on the court. That was implemented last season. So that's why y'all saw some of the things that you do. That's why y'all saw some of the stuff play out the way you did. Same thing happened in SimWorld U. So now you know that it happens and it will happen this upcoming year. Y'all know how that works. Your locker room's not engaged. You're just relying on absolute skill, and you may be playing a team that has more chemistry than you, that comes out and executes better, because IQ matters in basketball on both ends. So might want to get those locker rooms engaged, start making friends, and get your role play on. SimWorld is the realest RPG, right? I want to make sure y'all remember that. We're giving you all the tools to dig in and go crazy with this. Tell your story. Just know that the stuff that goes viral is what shows on the national media feed. The only things that happen in this world are not the only things that you see. You can tell whatever story you want. Some of y'all have caught on. I've seen the graphics. Shout out to you guys doing that stuff, doing it big. I appreciate all of that. It's dope. Y'all are bringing the world to life, and we get to report on it. Some of you guys talking about in the players chat about meeting up or things y'all are doing for the community. Media may pick up on it. Media may not pick up on it. But it's really good to do. It's engaging our world, and the media may pick up on it and make that story come to life. It may go viral. It may be seen nationally. Same way things happen in real life, right? Pick up on that media opportunity when you can. So let me check these comments, see if there's anything last before I get out of here. Yeah, Coach Pope, I can tell you had one of the most engaged locker rooms, and they won a lot of games based off of chemistry. You go back and watch those clips; they are connected. It looks like a player, but it really was a team effort because of their chemistry as a team. That Bay Area Breakers run last year. So same thing with the Philadelphia Elite. They made their run. They look like a great team, which they are. They have some great individual players that are going to look even better once they get to SimWorld U, because they get to operate outside of or within a system that's focused on them. But Philadelphia Elite had a crazy locked-in locker room, and as a team, they looked a lot better on the court. offensively and defensively instead of it being individuals. So that's why you got that. I won't speak about some of the locker rooms and teams that were better, but had incredibly disengaged locker rooms, and they got outplayed. So the locker room engagement is a big deal. Everything we do, we're trying to push you to engage with us so that we can tell your story. And something, we can't get to everything, but we do want to get to you telling your story. And some of that does not happen in the air. This world's supposed to be way bigger than what happens on the hardwood on the court. Hope y'all know that, because we're trying to help you build your brand. Any news on tourneys? Nope, not yet. They'll be incoming. Let us get to some of the work we have to do. Even the NBA and the NFL get an off season to replan and regroup. So we need a little time here. Appreciate y'all for tuning in for Hard in the Paint, though. Appreciate y'all being locked in with SimWorld. And just remember, man, it's the only place where you can see the game and be the game. We out of here. Peace.